Welcome to Involved Traveller Culture and Identity Programme, Online Training, Module 1, Irish Traveller Culture. What do you know about Irish Traveller Culture? What is culture? Can you give me some examples? By the end of this training, you will know the main elements of Irish Traveller Culture, how Irish Traveller Culture is changing, and how Irish Traveller Culture has shaped Irish culture. Here we have Stephen Wall sing My People. What is this song about? Did you enjoy it? Why do you think songs are important to different cultures? Irish travellers pass down their culture chiefly through stories and songs. Here Steve Wall pays tribute to all the great traveller musicians who had contributed to Irish music and culture.
Oh, my people, they roam those ancient fairs, bringing stories and the music of those old and ancient airs. But they tried to ban our culture, and they tried to stop our ways. The spirit of a people they are trying to erase. Oh, my people, don't let them bring you down, because your rich history is written on every stone in every town. Oh, my people, don't let them keep you down, because your rich history is paved on every road in every town. On the winds of change, I can hear the lullaby of the Bowell Pecker Dunn, with the teardrop in his eyes. Johnny Keenan and Teddy Fury and old John Riley too. You were the guardians of our culture, and we will always remember you. Oh, my people, don't let them bring you down, because your rich history is written on every stone in every town. My people, don't let them keep you down, because your rich history is paved on every road in every town. With our banjo and those ancient Gaelic airs of the piper Pat Cash, he passed the flame down through the years. To Johnny Doran and Felix, those gypsy piper kings, you inspire generations, and your names we'll forever sing. My people, don't let them bring you down, because your rich history is written on every stone in every town. My people, don't let them keep you down, because your rich history is written on every road in every town. My people, don't let them bring you down, because your rich history is written on every stone in every town.
Nomadism, at the heart of it all. Nomadism shapes the way people lived in extended family groups, the work they did, and also how they thought about the world around them. This is the nomadic mindset. Even though it is now very difficult for Irish travellers to live nomadically due to changes in laws, nomadism has shaped every aspect of their culture. Irish travellers traditionally lived a nomadic existence, relying on skills which would have taken them from place to place and used to support their families as everyone travelled together. But nomadism is more than that. It is a specific way of seeing the world. It's a mindset. The picture shows a Mongolian yurt and is an example of other nomadic people who live all around the world. If a settled person had to live in a trailer, caravan, mobile home and move around to find work, would they find it difficult? Nomadism gave us work, independence, customs and a way of avoiding conflict. Even now, our nomadic culture shapes how we live and see the world. There are nomads all around the world. Travellers are nomads of Ireland. What do you think are the types of accommodation Irish travellers live in? The name traveller describes a member of an ethnic minority group and was given to the community by settled people. You cannot stop being a traveller. Even if you move into a house, travellers have their own names for themselves, Pavy and Winker. This photo and the one on the next slide were taken by Alan McWeeny in Cherry Orchard, Ballyfermot in the 1960s and used with kind permission. In past times, travellers would live in traditional tents, wagons and huts. The tent poles would be made from flexible lengths of wood and straw bales as bedding and used as seats inside. Many years ago, travellers lived in traditional wattle tents, huts and barrel-top wagons in well-known stopping places. This meant that they could travel around to find work easily. In modern times, the way travellers lived has changed. Halting sites are places where you can park your trailer, and group housing is where there is a mixture of bricks and mortar housing with bays for trailers also provided. Some travellers still live in modern trailers or chalets, which are placed on halting sites or in group housing areas. A small number of families live in trailers by the roadside. So what do you think is happening in this photograph? Several Irish traveller organisations are protesting about the lack of accommodation for travellers. While some travellers would choose to live in houses or apartments, many want to live on a halting site or group housing scheme. This would allow them to continue to live as traditionally as possible. The problem is that there is not enough of this type of accommodation for everyone who needs it. But living this way has been made almost impossible due to changes in the law, not enough halting sites and the loss of traditional stopping places. Today, the majority of travellers live in houses or apartments. Traveller industries. Do you know what kind of work Irish travellers engage in? Here is a tinsmith working by the side of the road. This is possibly the most common idea people have about work done by Irish travellers. However, they also work in many other different ways. Irish travellers are adaptable. There is probably not a single trade that a traveller has not turned their hand to over the generations. This shows a range of, but not all of the work provided by travellers. The picture is of traditional paper flowers made by a traveller woman. The main areas of work traditionally undertaken by travellers were labouring on farms and buildings, artisan trades such as tinsmithing, repairs and paper flowers, sales from door to door, and entertainment with music and storytelling. In modern times, there are only a few tinsmiths left in the trade, but there are other kinds of work that travellers have branched into. A very small number of Irish travellers still work as tinsmiths, but other travellers may work as market traders or gardeners running their own businesses. Trades are still very popular with young travellers developing skills in bicycle repair or in security work. In 1965, Mr. Bernard Mongan, tinsmith, was filmed on behalf of the National Museum of Ireland while he worked at a roadside encampment at Cahermorris, County Galway. The film shows each step in the process of making a lidded tin can. You can see how comfortably he sits by the roadside working away. And at one point in the video, I'm sure you noticed the head of a little child pop up. This is the perfect way for children and other members of the family to pick up the skills themselves through observation. Some travellers have jobs where a high level of education is required, which is a big change from the traditional work. Kathleen Lawrence is training to be a primary school teacher. More travellers are now finding work in offices, in education, healthcare, or in community development groups. There are some highly educated individuals in our community who hold PhDs and work as barristers and therapists. The arts, music, arts and crafts. Irish travellers have made a huge contribution to Irish culture in the arts. This deserves to be more widely recognised. Beady pockets are one of these crafts. These are traditional handmade items sewn by Irish traveller women. They would be worn around the waist, usually under an apron, and held important things safely. They were highly embroidered and decorated with buttons and charms. Women would often exchange things with other women to sew onto their pockets. Irish travellers played music to a very high standard, and often made and repaired instruments too. Travellers have provided an important role in the development of Irish music. Felix and Johnny Doran's playing style on the uilleann pipes was and continues to be hugely influential. The Dunns were also very influential musicians. This documentary clip shows the musical pedigree of Mickey Dunn and his family.
I come from a family called the Dunn family, and they go back for generations. They were a travelling family, but they mainly made their living from playing music. And my father's father played the fiddle, and it goes back for about 5 generations. Mainly fiddle players. I'm the first piper, I think, the way I broke the link, but it goes back for generations. Times are very, very different than they were in the 40s and 50s and 60s and 70s. And my uncles and my father, they became very, very popular because as entertainers in small villages and at fairs and for house dances and for gatherings of all different types, football matches, they would have been probably the only entertainment around at the time. There was no radios, no televisions, nothing like that. I do meet people who speak so highly of them. Music was more to them than just a hobby. It was their life. That's how they made their living. It fed their kids, it clothed us, and it meant a whole lot more than just, like today it's a hobby with a lot of people, but it was a way of life for them. And my 3 uncles, Joseph, Michael and Christy, they had very, very bad eyesight. And they became famous throughout the country as the Blind Dunn Brothers. And they were super, super musicians. They were way ahead of their time. So they became sought after, you know. Honest to God, I hear people today that stood on the street for hours and hours and hours listening to them. People like Seamus Connolly, Tony McMahon, who would have been kids at the time, and their mothers brought them in to hear the drums. You know, so it's a legacy. It goes back for generations. You know, and I'm proud that I'm one of the standard bearers of it, even though I'm a piper.
Is cuineann chéadúir gur chomhail mé Michael agus Christy Dunn. Bhí mé teachta baile ón scoil, trán ón na ghéirigh timpeall 4 clog in sna caigadaí, lár na caigadaí. Agus bhí an bhirrteach na seasamh senim ceol ar sráidí Conall, nó ar a gasán. Agus is cuilim go má do higas díreach gur raibh rud éig an ceard leis na súile, nuair a bhíonn tú óg, tugann tú rudaí fneara, agus bhí ní raibh na súile go maithfeá, agus bhí sa fécant ar na méirichaí a dul suas síos ar na sranganna. Is cuinim bhí na méirichaí salach, agus bhí na hanganí salach, agus bhí méirichán ag Christy a senim ar a manjo, ach bhí an ceol go háling ar fad. Bhí rithim ann, bhí brúar aig sa ceol, agus bhí ní hé bine sa bháin ach bhí láidireacht, bhí sé tréan agus de chuirg sé glúndar nó sppraga ort.
Daróthaiad sa a bhíicfaiad, daróthain ceol a techt suasráid fádric, agus an san ceol an bhenjog an dót. Bhí stíl sais láidrige ar an menjo, agus dhearach sé tínéir. Thug feisís an san timppla chuúnistigh fan berte chun fear ard, agus díaran go triblóirí go lena rairc. Ach bhí sé seintas ar an menjo agus an fear eile go húil an eclis, an a hiún an a bhíasach.
On a Monday, Thursday and Saturday, they went into town, humour and weather permitting, to collect or to busk. They went to their stand outside Rocha Stores in Patrick Street, and then they carried both of their instruments without a case because, and I quote them, they said, "We could not be bothered with cases, otherwise we'd have to give them into a shop to mind." So they then established the habit of going into a shoe shop, Tyler Shoe Shop in Winthrop Street, to get an empty shoe box to collect the money, and they said that the empty shoe box does grand for the money. So there's a lovely photograph here of Christy and Mick with their backs to the street, facing the crowd as they came out of the shop, usually Rocha Stores, and in it you can see the empty shoe box which they probably collected from Tyler's shoe shop earlier.
Would you welcome, please, ladies and gentlemen, Fiddler Don? You all know.
There are many Irish families who have very talented singers, but there are also individuals who excel in the other areas of the arts. John Riley, Pecker Dunn, Finbar Fury, Steve Wall, Selena O'Leary and Thomas Dorn are examples of great Irish traveller singers. We also have talented playwrights and actors like John Connors, Rosaleen McDonagh, Michael Collins, plus artists such as Leanne McDonagh. This clip of the Traveller Pride concert in 2019 shows the range of talent in the community.
We're here tonight to celebrate Travellers in the Arts as part of Traveller Pride Week. As we know, travellers are in different areas of the arts. We have people from the traditional singing, we have people from modern singing, we have storytellers, we have poets, we have people who are involved in documentaries, and we have people involved in the acting.
I don't know about like other movies and other directors, but the people that I was working with were really good, and all of them were very nice, and they didn't really care that I was a traveller. Like, it was just as another person that was there.
You were an actor?
I was an actor.
The Irish state and local authority really doesn't give our community, young and old, the opportunity that settle people have.
Some people don't know how to express themselves, say how they feel. And my way to say how I feel is way through music. Other people's different way.
My people, don't let them bring you down, 'cause your rich history is written in every stone and every town. Oh, my people, my people.
This song here is about that broken lineage of my identity, where I was forced to assimilate for a period of time into the settled culture, which was completely alien. Broken homes, broken hearts, broken truths make for bad starts.
We have so much negative. You never hear anything positive about travelling. This is the one thing they can't take away from us.
My lips, they are so bitter, he says. My breath, it is so strong. If you get a kiss of my ruby lips, your days, they will not be long. Your days, they will not be long. My people, don't let them keep you down, 'cause your rich history is paved in every stone and every town. Oh, my people, don't let them keep you down, 'cause your rich history is written in every stone and every town. My people, don't let them keep you down, 'cause your rich history is written in every stone and every town.
Traditions. There are some less well-known traditions that Irish travellers practice, even today. Like some settled Irish people, Irish travellers are sometimes very religious and express their faith in various ways. It is less well known that travellers are very charity and community minded and often volunteer to raise money for children, the homeless and the sick. Some traveller families are religious and celebrate important milestones in their lives. These include First Holy Communion and Confirmation, visit family graves, seeking cures for illness, and pilgrimage to Knock and Croagh Patrick. In the past, many travellers kept horses, and they were a very important part of culture and traveller economy. Horses hold a lot of cultural importance to many Irish travellers. Only a small number of families still keep horses, but they are still an important cultural symbol. Irish travellers created 3 breeds of horses: the piebald, the skewbald cobs and the Connemara pony. Irish travellers were a very important element in many of the fairs and festivals we celebrate today in Ireland, and they played a huge part in their creation and ensuring their survival. Some fairs, including the Ballinasloe Fair, are still very traditional and many travellers still attend them for social, economic and cultural reasons. Fair days provide places for travellers to sell and trade their horses and other animals. There would also be market stalls with music and meetings between families and friends. The place of boxing in Irish traveller culture is a historical one. There is a long history of boxing within the community. Here the boxer, Bartley Gorman, is posing as a historical boxing champion. In the past, travellers had a way of settling disputes by arranging fair fight. This would involve a representative from each family and a fair play man or referee. Afterwards, the two men would shake hands and the matter would be finished. Fighting related to feuding are based on criminal activity and have nothing to do with Irish traveller culture. There are many talented Irish traveller boxers, including Francis Barrett and John Joe Nevin. There is also an increasing number of female Irish boxers. The criminal practice of fighting seen today is completely different from fair fights and is not part of traveller culture. However, the tradition of boxing is still very strong amongst Irish travellers. Irish traveller boxers represent Ireland in the Olympic Games and in professional bouts. Do you think it matters what ethnicity people are? Do some people get treated differently? Is this fair? Many people who would normally not judge a person because of their ethnicity seem to think negatively about travellers, even if they have never met a traveller. Travellers are often refused entry to bars, clubs, hotels, restaurants and other establishments just because they are travellers, even if they have never been there before. This sign was reported to a traveller organisation in the UK because it is illegal to discriminate against people on the grounds of ethnicity. Irish travellers are Irish people and are also an ethnic minority. But many travellers learn to hide their ethnicity even as children because non-travellers discriminate against them. Irish travellers may have other aspects to their identities, including being disabled, having sight or hearing differences, being of mixed ethnicity, or being autistic, for example. Travellers who are also from the LGBTQI+, say they have had to come out twice, because they had to tell people about their ethnicity as well as their LGBTQ+I status. It can be very difficult for them to feel safe and have access to services due to this. Do you know any traveller language words? Have you ever heard traveller languages or words being spoken? Words like Fín, Sham or Bure? In this media clip, Michael McDonough talks about the cultural workshops he has developed to help young travellers discover more about their heritage. He also explains why language is so important to him and other travellers. Irish travellers have their own unique language which is known as Gammon or Cant.
Barry told us all the Minkiers and Osh. The Innick and Osh is for to help and support young Minkier to learn different lubbers, different meanings like a Minkier story, or also to have a good understanding of all the different words, and the word for word is lubba, so I'll use that a bit as well. The whole project itself is to help build confidence in young travellers for our language, because our language is a huge aspect of our identity and of huge importance, and I don't feel that it has been given the credibility that it deserves, or I don't feel it has been given the importance that it deserves. And a lot of people over the years, and I find it very interesting, a lot of people over the years have assumptions of what this language is, and quite sadly a lot of people put it down as a slang or down as a makey up type of a thing, which is brand new, and it is far from brand new as you'll get, because this language, if we want to go closest cousin in relationship to other languages, its closest cousin is Shangailge, which was spoken in Ireland in the pre-1200s. So here you are, you have young travellers out there speaking a language that was spoken in Ireland over 1,000 years ago. And that's important to get out there to people, and that's part of what we're trying to do in relation to this programme. I think it's also so important for travellers to be able to speak their own language. And one thing, I've been involved in this for many, many years, and one thing that I've found quite recently, which has encouraged me a lot, I have to say, is the amount of interest from young travellers are now taking in this language. And I'm saying, what caused all this? What caused this huge positive interest? And the only thing I can come up with is the whole recognition of travellers' ethnicity and the recognition of travellers as travellers. And to me, that helped travellers' confidence, but it also gave us a sense of who we are. And that sense of who we are, part of that is our language. And that's why I'm so encouraged by young people. In the past, people only use this language as like a defence mechanism. And that defence mechanism was only used in the presence of settled people. And I feel that, okay, you can use the language for that, but that wasn't the use of the, prior to that it was communication language. And I think that's what we need to get back to, how proud people are in their language. The other point I want to make is, and I think this is, I'm astonished at this as well, that the majority of travellers out there feel, oh, we don't know this, we don't know that, we haven't got the language. Yes, we've lost a huge amount of it. Quite sadly, most of our real native speakers of the language have passed away. There's a few of them still out there, and they're treasures for us. But the amount of people that feel, oh, I don't know the language, you would be shocked and amazed. And I've been involved in so much workshops, giving workshops on the language, encouraging people to speak it, that the amount they actually do know and don't realise they know. And this piece of work that we're doing with the children is also to help them understand that they actually have much more in their heads than they realise. And we use it a lot more in our everyday lives than we actually do realise. But the sad thing is that we use too much English when we're speaking, rather than just using enough cant to make it understandable what we're trying to say. So to me, this whole programme now that was done here, which was Cant to School Part 2 as far as I'm aware. So I feel that at this stage, the whole programme itself, it was unique. It was like a Gaeltacht, if that makes sense to people. But to me, it was beautiful just to listen to the children speaking in a language that their parents, grandparents and great-grandparents took great pride in speaking, but only in the last number of years it has gone down so bad. And that's what we're here today, is trying to revive that and bring that confidence back into travellers.
What's your miles? Yes. What do you do? So put this guy on your miles, so what do you do?
Wash your hands.
Because
Good.
the miles is Lagany.
This is a really hard one. If I said I'm soon in at the Stormere.
That would be a very hard
Go on,
one.
we're looking at the what? At the Stormere. What do you use
Store,
in school?
store.
No, what do you use in school? Book. We're looking at the book. Soon in at the Stormere.
And what's yourself? What is that? Like when you're not eating my jeans. Your Lorks, your Malik, your Kay, put all together, your glories, and put all together for bread.
Yeah, because a lot of travellers think P is the word for face.
Yeah, I know.
It's not. It's bread.
So what's the face stands for? So if I say the gushuk of wheat, the cup of tea, but they think by saying the cup of wheat, it's a gushuk of wheat.
Yeah, gushuk. But a gushuk can also be a plate, or a gushuk is a vessel, whatever.
I didn't want to use the word wheat because that's kind of happy.
Now what's used for light or candle? A nugget. A what? A nugget. A nugget.
Michael, as part of this programme, children took part in music and dance, which was semi-cultural. How did you think, what did you think of that, or what did you think the importance of that was?
I think I don't even realise how important that is. Because as part of everyday life, when I was growing up, the storytelling, the music, the dance was part and parcel of your day. Well, not so much your day, believe it or not, your evening. because you're working all day and in the evening you settle down and most of them gathered around the fire and they tell stories. The stories weren't just stories, they were actually a day's event, what happened, but it was told in a very entertaining way. And I think doing music and doing dance in a language class or a language program took away from the hard sort of drum this home. The biggest support we need is from the parents and grandparents. That's where we need the biggest support, because they is where our resource is. They is where they have it in their heads and the children trust and want them to teach them. But we need to give them the tools to be able to do it, and this is one way of getting people involved. I think also for travellers, we need to show them that this is a language, it's not a slang. It's not a make up thing by a couple of people. Like I've had the privilege of speaking to travellers, South Carolina, Georgia, Mississippi, right across Europe, Irish travellers. And literally the one thing that I found the most easiest, regardless of what name your family was, is that they all could speak Cant or Gammon. And that linked everybody together. And that's what we need to do.
When it comes to anything that you do with travellers, the myth is there that if I'm living in a house, I'm no longer a traveller. Can you...
That's a hard one to answer. I'll tell you why it's hard. For to understand that concept, it's a really difficult one. It's a negative. Like people say, you live in a house, you're now a settled traveller. But that concept of being a settled traveller, does that mean that a settled person moves out of a house and moves into trailer, they are now a traveller settled person? It doesn't. And it shouldn't. And it works the same way for travellers. You can live in a castle. You can live in mansions, you can live in a house, you can live in a caravan, you can live in a tent. Your mode of accommodation doesn't dictate to you your identity. And I remember once listening to a very good Irish traveller. He was a singer, and he said something that stuck in my head, and I'm going to repeat it for him. It's not my saying, I wish to God it was me that thought of it, but it wasn't. And he turned around and he says, he lived in a house most of his life, and his friends were joining me saying, how can you be a traveller and live in a house? So he went back to his mother, and he says, Mommy, he says, such a person keeps asking me, how come I be a traveller and I live in a house? And now why am I that? And her answer was that. She says, tell me, son, she says, how long does a dog have to, how long does a cat have to live in a doghouse before it becomes a dog? It doesn't happen. So you don't change your identity through your mode of accommodation.